to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Got an 01 Buick Century here with a big 3.1 in it. Customer says it's running hot. Temperature gauge is buried, the light's on, it's overheating. Even though the gauge says it's hot, I think it's even hotter because I think it's a liar. Its pants are on fire. Let's make some general observations. What I did, I started the car. First thing I did is kick on the AC to make sure that the fans run, and they do, which you can obviously hear. But I come in here and she's pegged. It's smoking hot, according to the gauge. We have a service vehicle soon, which I think is just body stuff on one of these old Buicks. But here's the thing. We're 160 degrees out of dash-ish, something like that. Got good heat, no interruption in heat out of the dash. I'm gonna shoot it with my laser beam. So we have no heat, anything, no funny business, let's say. All right, gauge is pegged out. I'm like, all right. Engine's running like garbage. Super lean, I'm assuming, because it's, you know, so overheated. But let's come out here. Check the outlet. So we're coming out of the thermostat at 160. Let's shoot the cylinder head. 152. Let's just do an overall shooting of the engine. She ain't real hot. Go to the water pump, go to the inlet. Coolant is going in at 102 degrees. Coming out at 120. 160 something, 169er. Shoot the cylinder head. Should be the hottest point of the engine. What's our max? Just short of the 69, we're at 168. 0.4 is the max. Nothing seems real hot here, folks. It ain't real hot at all. 174 is about the highest we've gotten. But according to the computer, it's 275. But look at that coolant temp reading. That thing's all over the place. It's pegged out. That's as high as it can go. 275 degrees. I think it's lying to us. Now, it is my fault. I did not plug in the scan tool right away because being a 3.1, I naturally assumed it just had blown head gaskets, intake leak end is out of coolant. What the customer has done is what it looks like is they filled the reservoir, the overflow jug, right to the top. It's about 2 inches down. Looks like they filled it with some universal, you know, global coolant, we'll call it. When I checked that cold, that was full like that. So naturally that's feeding my intuition that it's just another nuked 3.1. But I checked the radiator when it was cold and the radiator was full. So it's not like it pushed all the coolant out into the overflow jug. So long story short, you know, talk to the customer and he's like, oh yeah, put some coolant in it. Okay, well that's what we do. So that has nothing to do with it. Then I proceeded to let the car warm up, and I see the temperature gauge is getting a little wonky. However, kept consistent heat, no air bubbles coming up into the overflow jug. Everything feels fine. You know, the hoses got hard initially during the warm up, and then, you know, pushed the pressure into the expansion tank, and then everything's been fine since until it got up into the 200 range. Once it hit like 190s, things started going haywire. So I'm like, she's lying. You ain't nothing but a liar and a thief. I don't know if it's a thief, but what we need to do now is find the coolant temp sensor, which I believe is down here on the thermostat housing, see how it works, make sure its circuitry is good, and then make the assessment that the coolant sensor is bad or the wiring going to it is bad. Well, this escalated quickly. The coolant temp sensor is in its normal location on this Buick, which is on thermostat housing, but I've ran into a bit of a snag. If I was across the pond, I'd say, I got myself in a bit of a pickle. I don't know if they say that, but that's what I said. This has a 3-wire coolant sensor on it. So I'm thinking, no big deal. Regular thermistor. let's say it works like this. The colder the temperature, the higher the resistance. The warmer the temperature, the lower the resistance, okay? Standard, basic stuff. GM on this vintage usually has a 2-wire thermistor coolant temp sensor. Let's say it's 3 wires, so I thought, well, let's grab a diagram, okay? I can't find a diagram to save my life, and Identifix is down, so I can't look up an OEM diagram, and I'm not willing to pay for the subscription to GM just to get it. I'll cut to the chase. I looked. I can't log into my BBB Industries to get an OEM diagram there, so I did what anybody would do. I called Keith and said, can you look this up on Identifix or ALLDATA for me and get me a diagram? He starts looking, he can't find it. All I want to know is what the mystery 3rd wire is. So I'm going to show you how I got to where I'm at with knowing what I know and assuming that this is a single thermistor in the sensor, okay, that goes to, 2 circuits, one possibly to feed the engine computer and then another one to feed, the gauge was my assumption. When I started looking at diagrams, everything stated that the gauge pulls its coolant temperature reading from class 2 serial data. So the PCM collects coolant temp data, it broadcasts it out over the class 2 data network, and anybody that needs it takes it, like the instrument cluster, and then displays the data, which I know to be true on this car because our engine coolant temperature reflected what the dash was doing. When our coolant temp out here was going up and down, our gauge was going up and down. So I believe that it was using class 2 data. So I guess that's a lot to say, only to say that I still wondered what the 3rd wire was. What does it need the 2nd thermistor in that coolant temp sensor for? And the answer to that is nothing. And I owe a thank you, not only to Keith, but to another fella who he says is a YouTuber of mine, or a viewer, Mr. Caleb M. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want you wackos Facebook stalking this fella, but thank you, Caleb, for taking the time out of your day to send Keith the correct pinout diagram on this, so therefore I have the correct pinout diagram, and I'm going to share that with you. Nothing fancy here. I'm going to share it with you up here on my cell phone. Hold on, I know this is, we took a big turn with what we have. This is what I wanted. I wanted to find this diagram right here. So here's our 3 pin. So we have pin 1, which is manifold absolute temp sensor return. So that's our ground signal, the orange with black. That's our ground. Check. We have a yellow and a dark green. Both are coolant temp sensor signals. Fine and dandy. I'll tell you right now, the yellow one is the one that runs to the PCM. That should have 5 volts on it. And the thermistor, as resistance, as temperature increases, resistance decreases, and it's going to pull that voltage down. So great. So we can check, do we have good circuit integrity? Because this is what we wanted to know. Here we are. Colder it is, the higher the resistance. Right now we are at super high resistance because we're at infinite. It's unplugged. And we are at negative 38.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Quick bypass test. You take that wire, in theory, and you short it to ground, and that reading should change. The safest way to do that is with a test light. Let me get a test light. You hold right on. Hold on, folks. So we'll grab our old test light here, and this is just a simple bypass test. All right, take a test light, hook it to ground, make sure the test light's good, and it's good. And then, can you guys see this? Let me give you props. Just like we gave props to Caleb. Let me enhance. Enhance. Can you see that now? Enhance. I think you can, right there in the corner of your screen. We're at 38.2 degrees. Now if I touch that wire, which should have 5 volts on it, our temperature resistance is going to go down. Temperature should increase. Boom, 284 degrees. Open circuit, 38.2. What's that tell us? That tells us that our wire integrity to the ECM is good. Unenhance. Unenhance. All right, so then what we want to know is our sensor ground good? And we could check that with a meter, or we can just use a really low current test light here. This one's only, I think, 75 milliamps, something like that. And we're going to hook that to battery positive. That works. We're going to touch sensor ground. and it lights up red. Our center ground's good. We use our meter, you can do the same thing, center ground to that wire, to the one signal wire. We should have 5 volts. Oops, I'll get my digits to work here. Shimon. Come on, little guy. Sometimes I have a hard time getting it in the hole. There we go. We have 5.00 volts. I don't know if you can see that. Let me enhance. Now can you see it? 5.00 volts. So we have 5 volts. We have a ground. That side of it's good. But when I'm looking at this, because I'm doing a stinking YouTube video, it's like, what's the green wire? What's that go to? But I already told you the answer. It goes to nothing. We look here. It is circuit number 135. Okay, that's our circuit number. And we could not find that thing for the life of me. Enhance. Coolant temp sensor. We have our yellow wire, which we've already checked. We've got our orange with black, which is our low reference, manifold map sensor. Low reference shares the same low reference, same ground. Our yellow wire, we know we have 5 volts, and then here's our mystery dark green, the diagram I could not find to save my life. Circuit 135 goes connector C102 pin J. All right, let me do this off camera. So then we come up here, connector C102, and then we go to pin J. Well, guess what? It's not used. We go to the other half, pin J, not used. So that thing goes to nobody, in no man's land. And without Caleb, I wouldn't have known that. Without Keith knowing Caleb, I would have never known that. And that is why when I measured it with the voltmeter, I had what they call ghost voltage. I had just voltage floating. But then you can make the assumption, well, either you have ghost voltage because the wire goes to nothing, or B, it's broken. That's all I wanted to do. Why does everything have to turn into a complete show? Long story short, we have a bad coolant temp sensor. Now, you could have just guessed and taken the new one, plugged it in, and if everything's good, you're golden. But curiosity always has the best of me. Now, how can you test your coolant sensor? Because this is where it's unique. You would think that the thermistor shared the same ground. So we have 3 pins. We have one, we have our ground down here, and then our thermistor that runs the coolant temp sensor. Then our other thermistor here, it does not utilize that ground. It utilizes the case as a ground. So keep that in mind. And they are not the exact same resistance, which I can show you after I get my assistant out here. All right, so Maria's gonna hold the ohm meter. I've got my leads, we'll make sure they're good. It's in the auto ranging scale. And then auto range, and they're good-ish. The 2 pins side by side, this is the one that runs the ECM, so I'm going to go across this pin and this pin with the ohm meter. And we're about room temperature, or at least the temperature of this room. And we're gonna get our reading here from these two. So this is from pin A to B, we'll call it. We'll go in here. If I can get my meat nuggets to work, I should be holding the meter. And then, okay. And we are at
2.6,
yeah, 2.68 ohms, which is gonna change because my fingers are on it. So 2,678 ohms. Okay, now if we go to pin 3, so this is our dark green wire right there, and then if I attempt to go to ground, which is the other pin in here, you can see it says O for infinite resistance. So that one actually grounds to the case ground, and that is 2,446 ohms of resistance. So what, a couple hundred ohms difference. So in a pinch, emergency, your coolant sensor dies, you're in West Kalamazoo and there's no shop around, could you in theory take the yellow pin and move it over to the hole where the green pin is and get yourself home? That's to be determined. But quite plausibly, that could work. That was Keith's idea, because he thinks of weird things like that.
I'll be in West Kalamazoo, Brandon?
You do not want to be in Kalamazoo. Do you know where Kalamazoo is?
It's a place that bad things happen, apparently.
It's in Michigan.
Oh, well, sorry.
I just like saying it because I like saying Kalamazoo. Long story short, folks, this car is not overheating. It just needs a coolant sensor if you're looking for the answer. However, before I get too carried away ripping things apart, I am curious to know if I can reach that little guy with a crow's foot that immediately just fell off. that's how things work in real life. Except this is ever we can get to it. So I've got a 3/4 inch foot from a crow. And I want to see if perhaps I can come over here and work to the side. But I'm pretty sure if we can crack it loose, that we can get it out. And I think that puts me right up against the casting, but I'm going to try. Oh, look at that, fella. Now we're cooking with fire. But all that did is loosen it. I don't know. It loosened it and it broke the socket, or broke the sensor all in one swift move. You know, the thing that I didn't want to do. Of course, this is the old one, so I don't care, but I was curious if that would work, and it kind of did. If I didn't have closed crow's feet, if I had the open style, which I don't have because I don't use them that often, I'm thinking that would have been, or would be our ticket. Oh, son of a monkey. Let's just try. I just don't want to break the new one on the way in. What if, does that help? Well, it kind of does. Let me go peg the throttle wide open. I don't know if you can see where I'm at. Can you see where are you guys at? Oh, you guys are up here. We're down here. Did that help at all? Hopefully it does. Otherwise, you're gonna have to trust me. Thing just crumbling to nothing. Now we got to come up with a plan. How are you going to get the new one in there? What you're going to do is you're going to put it in there and you're going to drop it a half a dozen times when you go to put it in. But I got an idea. Where are you? Too enhanced. You got to get your hose. Get that out of there, hose. So we're going to stick that on there. Ah, look at that.
Oh, wow, that's great, actually.
Okay.
Don't you have one of those?
For spark plugs.
Oh.
Where do you think I came up with a brilliant idea, Bray?
So your spark plug goes and you were like, oh man, I wish that was bigger.
And see, because the cooling system has a slight vacuum of sorts, it's good. Now, it's not peeing out, so this already has pipe sealer on it. I'm going to stick it in my hose. It's about 3/4 inch.
Snap that guy off.
Yeah, you don't want to snap that guy off, so that's why we're going to go like this. Always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Find the slot. Put it in. Whoa. What? That is like, that should be on 5-minute crafts.
DIY.
Like that. Huh? Huh?
Okay, alright,
Alright, give me the credit.
that was pretty cool. Can't I just spin this
No, it's pipe thread, so it's tapered. Now, folks, this is where, you guys can't see crap.
up? There, yeah. Can you
Wow.
hold it down here?
Maria's volunteered to hold the camera.
Give him a better view.
Now, you guys saw me break the old one on accident. What the? Let me move this PCV hose. There we go. Now we're gonna come over it with the foot.
Your hand's in the way.
I know.
I can't see anything.
You're gonna have to come right down this angle right here.
They still can't see.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, maybe they can. A little bit. They get what they get.
You know who can't see right now?
You.
This guy.
The one that needs to?
Yeah, I gotta move. Maybe you can give him the overhead shot here.
That's a better shot.
And then we're just gonna take little bites each time here. I'm using my screwdriver.
Don't they call a little bite a nibble?
Yes, taking a little nibble out of it each time. Until we hit the correct torque spec. So this
Which is gluten tight?
gluten tight, yes, it is the German variety. Now these are pipe threads, so they never really feel like they get tight. Just FYI, so if you're tight until you hit bottom, something's gonna break. I wish I had the open style crow's foot, I tell you that much. But I will not be buying them because I rarely need them, as I previously stated. It feels pretty good to my untrained hand. Take our crow's foot off. Show them where it is down in there, Marie. Show them what they got.
There it is.
What's it got, camera lady? Oh.
It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
No, it doesn't.
What's this in the way? Now they can see.
Now they can see. So there she is. Now we have to get the connector plugged back in. And what we'll do, or what I'll attempt to do, how come a light is never, it's always a great light till it's not. Get her lined up here. With my sausage fingers.
Should probably put a vertigo disclaimer on this part of it. May get vertigo if watching.
There, she's plugged in.
There it is, plugged
Show 'em
in.
what you got. We're in, we're happy.
Yep.
I'm happy, you're happy, the people are happy. No coolant was lost during the making of this film. However, we do need to take some coolant out of it because this thing is way overfull. And we don't want it puking its guts. And I have a confession. I'll put the PCV back in.
Confession time.
So I was gonna pull the throttle body, but the first thing I touched broke. And it's this right here. However, it has been mended once before. So this is the fresh air side of the PCV system. Now somebody has mended it once here because they touched it and it also broke. It just goes to the back of the valve cover. We're gonna get a piece of 1/2-inch heater hose as they did here and give it the old slip job. Because I went like, here, I'll just take this out. We'll take the throttle body off. We'll be quick about it. And boom, I broke. I said, you know what? Let's just stop.
Well, you quickly took it off.
Yeah, it quickly came off. Or we could pretend we never saw it.
But
that would be
we're
wrong.
not that kind of shop.
It makes us a liar. What size is this? 5/8? Yep, let me get a different size. So that is fixed. It's funny how things escalate around here. Just changed the fuel pump in a Chevrolet 2011, all rotted out. And did a idler pulley on a 01 Nissan Frontier. Now we're back to this. Let me get our throttle pop off. And then before we start it, we will do a simple key on. A KO-EO, if you're technical people, means key on, engine off. And I don't know how warm she is. Do we have a temperature gun? I'm gonna guess about 93.2 is what my hand tells me. And down there on the sensor we are 90.9. Scan tool says 93.2, so that's where I got that figure from, in case you're thinking I was that good, because I'm not. And then we're gonna go to show selected, and we're gonna graph it, and then we're gonna give it a minimum of 60, and a maximum of 240. We'll set that, enhance, 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 enhance. Now we'll start it, let it go through a warm-up cycle, make sure it is smooth, make sure the fans work and all that stuff. And we should start seeing gradual increases. They're gonna be a little shaky there where they start, and as it goes up each step, as resistance decreases. One of the two types of thermistors you can have, negative coefficient and positive coefficient temperature sensors. So when they work the opposite of each other, one of them, as temperature goes down, resistance goes up, and vice versa. So I'm gonna let this go, let it warm up. Now some of you may be questioning, why did this thing run so rough with a bad coolant sensor? That's because that is one of the primary sensors in your fuel injection strategy. It works in conjunction with, mass airflow and MAP and, cam and crank and everything, but it's more of a big part of the fuel strategy. Is not only does it need to know the altitude and how much air mass is coming into the engine, but also needs to know how warm it is. Because cars don't have a choke, so your old cars, carburetors that you guys know and love, everybody's like, I wish I had made a carburetor points. Well, your carburetor had sort of a thermistor. It had an automatic choke, you know, a bimetal spring that as it cooled, you know, the coil tightened up or whatever it did, loosened, I guess, and would flip the choke flap shut, and as it heated up, the, you know, resistance or the bimetal part of it would change and then open your choke. And that's essentially what this does. It sends the signal to the ECM to say, hey, you know, I need some choke. Which in this case, we don't cut off the air supply, we simply add more fuel. We can see we're on the gradual uphill climb. And as temperature increases, the amount of fuel we need decreases. So there's that. We're at 120, it's gonna take a little while. I'll let her warm up and see where we get. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully the testing and the little bit of frustration I had here makes sense. Most people are not gonna care about that third wire, what it does. But now I know. And I'm thankful for friends such as Keith, New Level Auto, link in the description. Our boy, Caleb, that hooked us up hardcore with the stuff Keith and I were both struggling to find. So that's great. Here we are, we're at the 200 range, 197. I think we should see a thermostat event at some point, which very likely could have happened right there. Where the thermostat opens, we're gonna get a slight drop in coolant temperature. Let me make this more screen recording friendly. There we go, now you got big line. So yeah, I just dropped to 194. And you know, it's gonna go through another cycle where it's gonna go back up to whatever temperature the fans kick on, 200 perhaps. So we can wait for that. Our thermostat did open, our radiator is hot. 181.9 down there at the housing. That was our max recorded temperature there at the bottom. 148 going back into the pump. Let's let her warm up till the fans kick on, make sure everything's cool, make sure she's good and steady. We'll ship it. 226.4. Do we have a fan yet? Oh, here we got a fan. So the fan just kicked on, low speed. I don't know what high speed is, maybe 230 is its threshold. But we should start watching a decrease in coolant temp as the fans run. I don't know when they kick off. They're still running and we can see we're starting to come down in temperature. GM's always ran their cars pretty toasty. Now granted, when you're driving down the road, you're not going to see temperatures like this. It's going to stay around regulated thermostat temperature. But you can see once the fans kicked on, we quickly drop down in, oh, what is that, 20 seconds or so. 50, 60, and then another 8. Yeah, so 20, 30 seconds, we've dropped back all the way to 212, just on low speed. Fans are still running, it's at 210 now. So you see the drop. Fans are still running. So maybe off at 200, 205 either way. Neither here nor there. We know they come on at 2.25, that they function. Our coolant sensor reading is nice and steady, unlike it was before. We also know where the green wire goes. And the fans are back off and we're at 201, so for what that's worth. So that's it, folks. I'm gonna get motoring. Why don't you guys motor on down to that comment box, leave your questions, comments, criticisms, concerns. While you're down there, explain whether or not this was helpful to know that this is a single thermistor dual wire sensor that can be used for the ECM and the gauge independently, or in this case, have the mystery wire. Was it silly to chase that down when we knew we only needed one side of it to work? I don't know. It's just the way my brain functions at some point. Let me know how your brain functions while you're down there. And function over to that subscribe button. subscribe and ring that bell and all the stuff that you do. Just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks again, Caleb, and thanks for watching.